We're going to talk about exhaustion and what you can do about it, and also 6 reasons why you may be exhausted. And Becca and I were talking about this earlier, and I think it's really important to first decipher that there is a distinction of the feeling of being physically exhausted and tired and worn down. And we do see that a lot when there's a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of inflammation, a lot of toxicity in the body, brain fog. I can't think clearly. It's dragging myself out of bed. That is a physical exhaustion, and likely that there's a lot going on under the hood that you need to address. And then I think there's also this exhaustion that is, you're just exhausted from life, mentally, emotionally, yes, physically. We know that we create energy. Energy creates energy. We have to create it for ourselves. And some people simply don't do that, right? They don't work out, they don't get sunlight, they don't move their body, they sit at a desk all day in the dark. Those are 2 completely different things. So I want to preface that here as we go through it. And we're going to talk on the latter basically today. We're not talking autoimmune disease and a lot of the functional work necessarily, but I think it's really, really important for you to start to really evaluate, where does this fatigue or exhaustion come from? And then we'll give you some tips and things that you can do about it. And I will say a lot of times, this actually just happened again this morning. I'm really, really excited for this person. But a lot of times people will go through our program and will identify that it's not even all of the physical. It's the mental, emotional. And so one of my gals is actually applying for a new job. I am putting out all of the prayers and good vibes for her because she needs out of this toxic environment. It is a detriment to her health, not just her mental and emotional health. It is a detriment to her overall health and the ability to heal. And I think it's really cool that when people do the work on their physical health, they often uncover all the other pieces that maybe have been swept under the rug or set aside that they really need to address to heal. And then a lot of them either make career changes. I know you and I both have clients that have gone through now functional certifications to, start doing the work with other people because it's been such a life change for them too. So, there's some distinctions here, but I think these 6 things, I hope that they are eye-opening for you. I know for me, when I was kind of putting this together, I was listening to another podcast this morning, and it was more from a business standpoint. There were certainly some things that I was like having aha moments, and I needed some of these messages too.
Yeah, and what I would say is, if you do have that debilitating tiredness, these still apply. These are still things that I would look into and make sure you are doing, because it might help improve moderately your current state of fatigue. And yes, there might be other things going on. And I think Liz and I have both been in this place, and you don't know it until you're out of it too sometimes, how bad it is or how bad it was, or if you feel really good and then you somehow end up in this downward spiral and then you're exhausted all the time. Having that discrepancy can be really helpful to identify. But if you've never had great energy, you've never felt amazing, then I would start with these things because it might be a combination of these, one of these mainly. But let's dive in. Number 1, you are not passionate about what you are doing. Like Liz was just saying, the work that you are doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it is a career, whether it is a mother, in your stay-at-home mom, and it's not filling your cup as much as you thought it would, or vice versa. You're working and you wish you were home with your kids more, or you're in a career that just is not bringing you happiness. I remember when I worked at Allstate, I would fall asleep in meetings, and
You just weren't interested. It wasn't passion.
Not something that brought me happiness. Amazing place to work, such a good work-life balance. I just didn't enjoy it. I was doing the work and I was like, this is really boring and not very exciting. And I mean, it's insurance, let's be honest.
And numbers and analytics.
Yeah,
numbers and analytics.
Yeah, I basically did actuarial work. Just not something that brought me a lot of joy and excitement and vigor. And even though the work that we do is very hard and exhausting and overwhelming to an extent, I'm so much happier and more energized by it versus zero energy, depleted, tired at the end. And so it's a different type of tired. This is a a good stressor, in my opinion. But yeah.
And I think too here, just speaking from my past life working in HR, I really loved my job for a period of time, at least in terms of self-development and the mentorship and the things that I was able to do to just change the culture, which was really awesome. But as the company changed and my role changed, I felt like I was misaligned, right? I didn't agree with a lot of the restructuring that was happening, the approach that they were taking. My heart definitely went out to some of the individuals impacted by that. And it was simply because this director thought he was the big kahuna and just wanted certain people off of his team so he could bring in his own people from a previous company. And I didn't think that was right. He eventually got let go from the company too. But, you might just be in a position that the company has changed and now you feel really misaligned because their values have changed or their culture has changed. So it might not be that you need an entire career change, but maybe you just need to get into a better company or one that is, more aligned with your values, because I really do believe that there's a lot to be said by living in alignment with your values. In the line of work that we do today, we can have, days where we've done long day of calls, long writing protocols, reviewing tasks, things like that. And we can be exhausted, but we know that it was from a really good day of work and it's impactful. And so again, that's where Becca's saying it's more of a eustress. The other thing here that I would add before we move on to number 2 is also just your perspective. So for me, one of the things that I have been doing is I've actually been trying to, my husband got me this journal for our anniversary. And so I take it to church for my church notes, but I also keep it by my bedside so I can write my gratitude. And I started putting some intentions there, but I've been looking at this and thinking about, even though there might be things on my calendar that I'm still having to do in this season that I don't necessarily want to do, I'm going to try to approach it with a positive attitude and really change the perspective. So instead of saying I have to, changing just the wording of I get to, and just showing up full force with full energy and really trying to make the best of it. Because if it's something that you have to do either way, you might as well generate some energy and, learn from it. This is something that, we've talked about with our practitioner team before too, in terms of learning different things. If it's something that you put on your calendar, I have 2 hours from 1 to 3 p.m. to study, and it's a gorgeous day outside, you probably don't feel like studying. And maybe it's just me, because I would rather be playing, right? And enjoying the weather. But instead it's, what can I get out of this? And how can I make this something that will really be valuable to me to fill my cup up instead of looking at it as another chore? Because if you look at it as a chore, you're probably not going to get too much out of it. And so I think just changing your perspective and your attitude is really huge. And you might have to do that for a while until you can maybe get out of the role that you're in or into another environment. The second thing is your habits. And this one stings a little bit, I will say, because I think that it's so easy. I've fallen into this trap before too, to get endoused with your work, endoused with all of the to-dos, right? Especially if it's chore work or, the kids and getting them here and here. And then you're just forgetting about maybe drinking your water or nourishing yourself. You are working late. And so, you're getting more of that blue light exposure, which is then impacting your sleep. Or maybe as the summer nights, are nicer and nicer and it's light outside and it's warm, you let some of those cocktails slip in on the back patio, because who doesn't love patio drinking, right? But then you're realizing, shoot, this is really impacting how am I sleeping, that I'm not getting up, I'm not as productive, I'm exhausted, right? That's what this is about. I'm tired, I'm fatigued, because you're not generating that energy. I tell Becca all the time, and my husband and I have been time blocking this, I have to get outside. I have my walking pad, it's great for winter. I have to be outside in the elements, in nature, getting sunlight on my eyes, or I just feel completely drained. And so in our line of work, for me, that's something that's a non-negotiable. But I think for other people, who do work maybe this 9 to 5 or even night shift or whatever that might be for you, it's reevaluating what are those foundational habits. And that's what FitMom Fit Month is really about, is bringing back the foundational pieces that you might have let slip because you've been so focused on other things or just in a stressful.
It can take some careful consideration and thought and intention around what the current habits are that are not serving you, because a lot of them can be completely subconscious. And I walk into the kitchen and I take a bite out of something from the pantry, or I take a bite of my kids' food, or I do that throughout the day. And now I'm up 200, 300 calories based on what I was thinking I was supposed to be eating, right? Like Liz was saying, getting wrapped up in kind of the environment of the patio drinking or what, the weekends. Listen, I really don't have any desire to drink until Friday or Saturday night. Like when I'm exhausted from the day, it's been a long work week, I'm stressed about something, whatever it might be. And then I just get influenced by the environment. And fortunately, I have found coping mechanisms and things that help me get through those times without giving into those temptations or giving into those things. But it had to take a period of time of me really kind of white knuckling things. And I still end up in that place where I'm like, okay, I don't really need this. I want it though. And then I stand there and I have to talk myself out of it. And I'm, standing in the pantry staring at chocolate box that we have in the pantry. And I'm like, I really want one of these. A bite won't hurt. But Becca, you keep saying that every day. And if you keep taking a bite every day, it starts to add up. And usually when you're giving yourself an inch, it starts to turn into 2 inches and then 3 inches and then a foot and then a mile. Like we don't usually stop at, a healthy place. A lot of times it just spirals into a bad habit, right? And like Liz was saying, when you don't create the time consistently, it gets really hard to find the time. You just fill your day with other things. Like you don't go for walks currently, or you don't work out currently. And then it feels like you never have the time to do those things, right? And so it is very intentional, like Liz was saying, about blocking out your calendar, about looking ahead of time. Like this week, I've started on Monday every week or Sunday. I look at my week, what times are open to make it to the gym? What times are open to do my fasted cardio? What times are open to, sit outside, go for a walk, take a break from work, whatever it might be. Because if I am not careful, my calendar will fill up very fast. And then I don't have any of that time. And then I'm angry. I'm, not in a great headspace. I'm in a negative place because I'm not taking the time for me. And one of our practitioners said this on our group call the other day. She's like, how long I have neglected myself is insane. Like I kept pushing through because I felt like I needed to. And I'm finally realizing I have not taken the time for myself. And we can, it can feel really selfish as a parent, and especially a parent of littles when like they just need you, they're dependent on you. Their emotions are big and your love for them is big, but we cannot pour out of an empty cup. And you're going to be in a negative headspace if you're never doing anything that makes you happy, that fills your cup and your cup only. And honestly, where you're selfish. And that starts with habits, because doing it once every 3 weeks isn't going to do much for you. Mm-hmm. Like it needs to be consistent daily things. And I'm not saying it has to be you spend 2 hours at the gym every day. Like it just needs to be consistent daily things that make you feel good and then propel you into other things in that day. Like for example, if I walk or move or exercise earlier on in the day, I in general just feel better. Endorphins are released. I've knocked out a habit that was a challenge to me, and now I'm proud of myself. I make better food choices. Like all of those things are very real and true, and we see that. But when you don't have those things consistently, it's really easy to let other habits consistently fall at the wayside. So consistency is key here, and evaluating your consistent habits, because a lot of us probably do things that we don't want to accept that we do or are proud of that we do. And it's those things probably that need to change.
Yeah. And I would say, I think for some of you, depending upon the season that you're in or the situation, I would even encourage you, if there's something that you're lacking, like movement, to get your kids involved. I know I have several clients and I do this a few days a week, especially now that, the weather is nice. Like I don't want to drive to the gym and do the gym thing if I don't have to. So I bring Marcus outside with me. Is my workout a little bit distracted? Yes. Is it not maybe as long or as effective as me going to the gym and having that undistracted time? Yeah, but at the same time, it gets him involved. So it shows him, how to be strong. And then what I have been trying to do on the other times that I have either in the gym or just, here by myself, is to be then really focused and not to, because I definitely fall prey to, and this is going to be number 3, being on my devices too much. I will be the first person to say, I was actually saying to Becca and my husband earlier, when I had my headphones die last week at the gym, or one day I forgot them, I had better workouts because I wasn't distracted, changing my music, changing a podcast, checking social media, responding to something, whatever, in between my sets. And so I was able to kind of get in and get out a little bit quicker. And so I think too, being intentional with like your focus can be really helpful if you are struggling, because you won't feel like you've gotten a rejuvenating break if you are just taking that time to be on your phone, which is number 3. So you're on your device way too much. And so one of the things that I would say here, and we've said this 100 times, is comparison is the thief of joy. And remember that when you are scrolling on social media, it is a subconscious comparison that you are having. Like, oh, what is she doing? What does she have? Do I need this product? Oh, they got to go here and I haven't gone on a vacation in however long. We think about that scroll. There's been research to even show that they know it's a dopamine hit, right? They know that it's addicting. And so this is something that I would say, if you can give yourself a Sabbath, a social media Sabbath, whether that's certain hours of your day or it's a day of the week or whatever. I know that it can feel like you're taking a break when you are just scrolling your phone or you're watching TV, but your mind is still going, right? Because you're still thinking about them.
My scrolling is a lot of, that looks like bullshit. That looks like bullshit. I have developed a very critical eye of and maybe it's just what comes up on my feed. I'm like, God.
See, I only follow like 20 some people. So maybe I just don't get
I have the 2 accounts. So on my old account, sometimes I'll just go to the search and like scroll random stuff. But I get a lot of reels about golf, like men leaving their wives to go golf. I get a lot of that, probably because of discussions my husband and I have. And then I get a lot of like 6 things I eat every day to keep my stomach flat. And I'm like, this is such I can't even. Like, versus I think a lot of people, we're still a little naive, but I've developed
Some people just need that ray of hope. Okay. And maybe maybe those 6 things somebody includes and then they feel better.
Maybe.
Who
maybe.
knows?
You're always going to help someone, right? So yes, being on the device is, I've thought about if I could go back in time and get rid of social media if I would. And part of me really feels like I would because of how much it's done to the world in terms of like adolescence as well and pressure on teens and how kids grow up these days. Like, I think we're going to see, I don't think we've fully seen the ramifications. I think we're starting to see it.
It's because it's taking away time that people are connecting. Like if you watch people at restaurants, like they don't know how to communicate.
It's sad.
And we're trying to work on this with Marcus. So we've put in timers on his iPad, and he gets pissed, or now he just like has figured out how to like surpass it. He's too smart for his own good. He's going to be definitely a big challenge when we get to high school. Lord, pray for us. The best is yet to come. But thinking about even just other people that, I know or family members, I'm the youngest of 6 and I was always around older adults. And so I was more mature for my age, and could hold conversations, but I was a part of those conversations. Like I sat at the table, like with my mom and her friends and whatever. And I either colored or I, entertained myself. I didn't have a phone or any of these devices that people have now. And so I agree with you. I don't think from a communication standpoint, we've seen the ramifications. And that's where I think too, it's important. Like I personally, Becca knows this and my husband knows this, the news that I get is probably something that my husband has sent us or a reel, because I don't watch it. I think it's a waste of time. I understand that the world is a shitty place. I understand that there's a lot of things that are going on, but I also understand that the only thing I can do is to control me, right? I only have a certain amount of energy in my tank each day. And if I give it to social media to be stressed out about something that's happening on the other side of the world that I have no control over, right? Like zero control. Like, and I know if you listen to Andy Frisella, I love him. Like stand up for what you believe in and go and show up at these, places in terms of like what's going on in the schools. And I'll do that when my child is of that age. But right now my role is to be a good steward of the Lord, serve my clients, serve my family, and focus on the things that I can control. And if everything around me implodes, then it implodes. I don't know. And so I think for a lot of people, like they also get stressed out to the max and they ruin relationships because either they're so far one side or the other of anything, that they can't even hold conversations with people because they're so angry that somebody doesn't believe the same thing they do. And I think we've lost the human value of your opinion, right? I think that is something that should be valued. And in cultures and different cultures around the world, like I love the diversity and embracing that and learning from other people and being able to have those conversations. And I think social media has taken a lot of that away, because if you say something wrong, they either shadow ban you or people will just get bold behind a keyboard and make you feel like the worst person ever. And I think it is causing a lot of like anxiety and depression for people. So all that said, I think there needs to be boundaries, right? And so, I mean, for me, I just usually buy too much shit. I'm gonna be honest. I just see things and I gotta have this, and I didn't need that at all, Liz. Like, just stop it.
Sunday morning, I texted her. I was like, I need to stop online shopping. Like, it's a true
Well,
addiction.
and somehow, I don't know how this happened. Somehow my phone is connected to my husband's shop, so he knows everything I buy, even though it's my credit card. And I was like, wait a second, this isn't right. I'm gonna have to reset this phone because
Nick has the Amazon Prime account, and like he gets notified of everything I order on Amazon, and so
we need
I'm
to
in the
turn
same
those
boat.
notifications off.
I'm just gonna get my
those
phone.
notifications off.
I'm just gonna get my own Amazon Prime account. Like,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
anyways, okay, moving on. Thing to look forward to. You have not planned something that you are actually excited about, and I think this can look like a lot of different things. This can look like a date night. This can look like a trip. This can look like challenge for yourself of nutrition, exercise, health.
A new meal that you want to try.
Yes. Like, I think that life has to be little and big things that you constantly are working towards or looking forwards to. And in my mind, that's kind of like a mix between self-development and pleasure and happiness, right? And I think that they can mix. They absolutely can mesh. But a lot of time, for example, I noticed this very clearly when Nick and I start getting at each other's throats too much. I'm like, we haven't been on a date night in 2 months, or we haven't been on a solo trip in 6 months. Like, I see it in our relationship a lot of times when all we have is the kids' time, and then like our short hour after the kids are in bed together.
And then you're exhausted.
And then I'm exhausted. And so like, when I start to notice those moments, I will book a trip, or I'll book a night downtown, or I'll, book a babysitter or whatever it is, because we need that. And then when I feel like I'm losing ground or motivation or whatever it might be with my nutrition or fitness or whatever it is, I a lot of times will create mini challenges for myself. Or if I haven't been working with a coach for a period of time, I might go and find someone to help me with whatever area I feel like I'm lacking in, because I really value coaches. I value that external support and motivation. And those are just some ways that you can create something that you're excited for, looking forward to, planning for. Like, we have our trip to Nashville next weekend, and I am, in my mind, like, nutritionally and exercise, that's what I'm working towards. And then when I'm done with that, I'll have something else. Like, we have a trip in August, working towards that, right? And so it's these little check marks, these little carrots that I'm chasing along the way that help me stay focused.
Yeah. And I would just add here, because I know that, okay, it's great to have those things, but financially that's not doable for a lot of people. So let's think about this too. For me, one of the things that we've been doing, like for example, last Friday, we went to the library. They had this huge checkers mat. We left the library, we went to Target, and we bought this big gaming thing. I don't know, whatever. So now we've been trying different games, and then we're deciding which ones we like, so we can buy like the bigger version, because there's like all these mini games that came in this bundle, which is cool. And so even that is just, it's something new. It's something different. We've been playing Uno. If we go to restaurants, we're trying to have Marcus play Uno with us and practice counting and colors instead of, just being on, the iPad all the time. It could also be that you pick a new recipe and you and your spouse, like, hey, you take the app, I'll take the entree, and maybe, we'll do dessert or we won't, but you cook together. It could be that, hey, you know what? Saturday is going to be a beautiful day. Let's meet up with our friends at the park and do a picnic. I have friends that have littles, and they have 2. We just have 1 right now. And so going out to eat is really not that enjoyable, to be completely honest, unless all of them have the iPads. Usually just turns into a shit show. If you have littles, or if you have had them, So I have said to her, you know what? Also, it's really freaking expensive to go out to eat anyways, or to any of these places besides this new Hyper Kids place we've been going to. It's like, you're going to spend $60, $100 just to go to like a kid's, like Becca and I were talking bowling. It was going to be like $86 to go bowling. I'm sorry. We're not spending that money.
Yeah.
So what we can do is we can go to the park, we can bring a soccer ball, and we can bring our picnic, and that could be something to look forward to, right? Because then you're connecting with people. So it could be a variety of different things, but put it on your calendar, right? Like I'm thinking about getting my nails done. Hey, Becca's going to be here on Friday. Hey, maybe we'll go get our nails done together. We'll do something that's not always working. Little things like that. The next thing here is you're not getting enough vitamin G. And you know that Becca and I are faith believers. For me, this means God first and gratitude. For you, it might mean something different, but certainly vitamin G can be gratitude for everyone. We know that gratitude is just the affirmation of the goodness that is in your life. And you might be in a place right now where things are really hard, they're really challenging, and you have to think about what you're thankful for, or, really struggle to find those things in your day-to-day because you're so bought into this like negative connotation because maybe you're watching the news too much, you're listening to too much BS on the interwebs or whatever it is, people around you. So you might have to shift and bring more positivity, right? Whether that's through podcasts, it is getting into, the word, whatever that looks like for you, but there's always something to be thankful for. And I think that this is huge. There's a lot of research around it. I'm not an expert in gratitude, but we know that behavior changes biology. We know that your thoughts become your actions, right? And we know that how you think about things, how you perceive things, all has to do with what is going on in between your ears. And so if you're not getting enough of this vitamin G, I would say start, your day with gratitude, 2 to 3 things. And if it is the next, 2 to 3 days that it's the same thing until you find something else, that's okay. But at least you're journaling, like, I'm thankful for the roof over my head. I'm thankful for the fact that I have clothes on my body today. Like, I'm thankful for my ability to walk. I'm thankful for, my spouse, whatever it is. Just start there. And then as you do this, we know that this also releases oxytocin and you become just naturally more happy and you're able to connect with other people and start to see more of the good.
Mm-hmm. I've worked to make time for it every morning. And it does make a difference on the days that I do it versus the days that I don't. And I add the intentions to the end of it. I usually do 2 or 3 intentions for the day. And it just keeps the things in the forefront of my mind. When a lot of times, otherwise, you just become a victim of your day. And you just get swallowed up in all of the negative, the fire drills, the screams, the arguments, like whatever it might be, versus being in control and not letting those things influence you. So the last thing here, you are not eating in alignment with what works well for your body, or you're just straight up eating shit. You don't care. And in turn, your body does it. I am in amazement of what we think our bodies are able to tolerate and handle, because our bodies are amazing adapters. They will adapt things to stay alive, but usually those adaptations are negative if they are not getting adequate calories, adequate nourishment, because there is a large difference between eating and being nourished. You can eat a bunch of calories and a bunch of crap food. You're not going to be nourished. Overfed, undernourished. That is the state of our world today. And so food is your largest input. I think your mind is a close second, if not tied with food. But food, we eat all day, every day. And we have to. It's not supplements. It's not exercise. It's food. And so if you are not feeling your greatest, I would strongly evaluate what you are eating on a day-to-day basis. And if you aren't sure what to eat, look up the Mediterranean diet, look at the paleo diet, look up Whole30. Those are all great places to start if you want to Pinterest some recipes. Like, it does not need to be plain chicken and broccoli. It can be delicious. It can be exciting. It can be, different. It just needs to be nourishing and quality foods. And it is amazing what the difference can make in someone just changing their diet. And the brain fog that's gone, and the energy that's back, and the digestion that's improved. And it's just the food input for them, right? And so I would, again, really try to take a strong evaluation of like, how many vegetables you're eating in the course of a week? What different types of fruits are you eating? Are you eating the same thing every day? Maybe that needs to change. Are you eating dairy and you're dealing with inflammation, constipation, and acne? Maybe the dairy should be pulled out for a little bit, right? Have you pulled out gluten completely? Like, what are you doing? Are you including lots of fiber in your day? There's so many inputs, adequate protein at each meal, right? It doesn't need to be as complicated as we think it does. There's a few simple habits of nutrition that stand across the board, like protein at each meal, lots of fiber in your day from fruits and vegetables, minimal processed foods.
Yeah. Adequate hydration.
Adequate hydration.
Yeah. And I think, if you were to really jot down, I always love the exercise of a food and mood journal, right? If you were to really jot down what you're eating, what you're drinking, and how you're feeling throughout the day and start to make some of these correlations and then start to change some of those things, you would get a lot farther than you think just by doing that. But you have to be willing to do that evaluation. You have to be willing to make those changes, because a lot of people say like, oh no, it's not this, or oh, I've cut this out in the past and that's not the thing. But they're not realizing, because they're not doing it long enough, just how impactful those things are, especially when it comes to like seed oils and ultra inflammatory processed foods and sugar. Sugar is the most inflammatory across the board, whether we like it or not. I love sugar too. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, if your body is in a state that you can't tolerate these things and feel good, then don't eat it. Like, that is what it boils down to. Like, I don't have a solution for you other than saying your body is directly telling you, which is your best guide, I can't tolerate this right now. There is no supplement that's going to just magically make you be able to go out and eat cheese curds and ho-hos and not have the reactions that you're having. So
I'm going to go out today and eat the food that normally upsets my stomach to see if it upsets my stomach today. Yeah. That's my toxic trait. Okay. I've seen that meme so many times and it cracks me up every time, but it's sadly the truth for a lot of people. Like, I just feel like crap all the time. So I just eat what I think I want, because what's the point? Right? Well, the point is, let's try and figure out what doesn't make us feel like crap. Let's try and do a little bit of investigation in ourselves and our body. And if you need a coach to help with that accountability, if you need an accountability partner, you guys, that is the one beauty of social media. There are so many resources out there that you can utilize to help you in this journey. And so you just need to put a little bit of effort in and find those. Like, Google 30-day accountability challenge or 30-day health challenge. We have FitMomfitmay. That is our 31-day, 2 habits per week. They are all very basic habits that are very doable, and it's habit stacking. You are layering in 2 per week, keeping the 2 from the previous week and the weeks before that until the end of the month, where you've created really solid habits that are helping you with the foundational aspects that will always matter for our health, right? Because we are 1/3 of the way into the year, more than 1/3 of the way into the year.
Yeah.
And
I just think too, for the person who's sitting out there and saying, well, I can't tolerate fruits and vegetables because it upsets my stomach, or I get more constipated or whatever. Like, sister, you got a lot of work to do then. There is always going to be a adjustment, right? If you are making a big adjustment with your diet, like let's say you're coming from Twinkies, Ho-Hos, all of these like I get it. Tasty, convenient, quick. I get it. But they are man-made, artificial, and they are not what your body needs for fuel. So there's going to be an adjustment period where your gut microbiome is going to be changing. Some bacteria may even get pissed off that you're not feeding it sugar all the time. If so, that's probably akin to overgrowth, and you should address that. But it's not the fiber. It's not the vegetables. If this is, a situation where maybe there is a lot of dysbiosis and you can't tolerate those things, then 1, you absolutely need to be working with somebody so you can get to the root cause. But 2, you need to recognize that you can still eat better than you are today by making small changes that can have significant impacts on the levels of inflammation in your body, because at the root of all disease is inflammation. And so if you're struggling and you're having brain fog and you are exhausted, going back to what I said in the beginning, where you're, it's really hard to get out of bed. You are sleeping 8-9 hours at night, but you still feel exhausted. Like, this is stress and this is inflammation. Cortisol is probably really dysregulated. Your central nervous system is probably stuck in that fight or flight state. And so we've got to calm down the inflammation and get you out of the state so you can feel better. Because even with the work that we do and the amount of hours that we put in and all the things that we have going on in our lives, like, I would say my energy is still pretty good most days, like, for everything that we've got going on. And I'll tell you, the biggest game changer that I have made lately is I have stopped doing a lot of caffeine. So I love coffee, but I have changed over to a 1/3 caffeine coffee from Purity called Balance, which I love. And I'm doing 1 cup of that a day. And everything else is coconut water, electrolytes, like really focusing on my mineral balance and starting my day with an adrenal cocktail. And I'm not having 3 p.m. crashes. I can stay awake past 8:30 most nights, not all nights. And I feel just a lot more energy and mental clarity than I was previously because I was tired. So I was having my coffee, right? And even though it was with food or after my breakfast, I would have either a venti or, a cup of coffee at home and then later another cup of coffee. So it was just too much. And that can throw off your cortisol in and of itself. And so I know in the season that you feel just exhausted, like you can't imagine going without some of these things because that is your like that is, a little bit of fuel in the tank for you. Those are also telltale signs